what would be the utility? It wouldn't be something that would be actionable. It would be dynamic. So you could separate
So one is YouTube streaming. Yeah, so one is YouTube streaming and two are backup video.
Okay, please take a seat. We're going to start the next session. Hello, quiet please. Yeah, I know we were all here for having discussions, and I appreciate that you enjoy the discussions, but we have a program for a reason, so that let's stick to the program for a while. And yeah, I would like to welcome you to the next session, which is about gaps. Some of the gaps have already been highlighted in the previous talks. Now we will zoom in on some specific aspects. And we will start with Simon Cobb. Please.
So, hello everyone, I'm Simon. I am going to talk to you about the work I've done to identify the authors who are affiliated with the University of Leeds and add them to Wikidata, and also to attach their works to them, matching more up to the faculties, schools and other parts of the organisational hierarchy. I'm a librarian at the University of Leeds Library, but this is some work that I've done in my spare time, just drawing on the knowledge I have of the organisational hierarchy and publications at the university, and also focusing on open access, which is the area in which I work. Okay, so this all began about 2 years ago, when I started trying to add works that are in the institutional repository, where we have an open access copy that's paywalled, and trying to put those, match those works in the repository with Wikipedia citations. This didn't really get off the ground. I was able to identify the items where we have an open access copy, but to systematically add the links was difficult because of the structure of the citations in Wikipedia. It's very easy to identify them just using the altmetrics API or crossref event data API. So I've still got those lists, and I can add those open access copies, but I haven't got a systematic way of going to Wikipedia and replacing the link, well, sorry, not replacing the links, adding an open access link to the citations. It's something I'd still very much like to do in the future. There's a lot of benefit to doing that. It would give the reader access to the full text from Wikipedia. It would also at the same time increase the visibility of the work by making it accessible from the point where it's cited. So that's how it all began. I also, again, about 2 years ago, started creating the organisational hierarchy of the university in Wikidata. What I really wanted to do originally was try and map out where different subjects were, where research around different subjects was taking place in the institution, to see if we could identify potential focuses for interdisciplinary research. Again, this was something that I did, and it ended up on the back burner as I've got other projects, particularly as the Wikidata visiting scholar at the National Library of Wales, so I've got a lot of work to do with that corpus that Jason was talking about this morning. But I've continued in my spare time to do some work around publishing at the University of Leeds. I've managed to create Wikidata items for about 1,400 authors. Got over 5,000 alumni with a Wikidata item now, and altogether we've got about 30,000 works. That's 26,500 articles and about 4,500 doctoral theses, all which have their Wikidata item. So this is all the groundwork laid for the work to identify authors. The first thing I did was look at the Wikipedia category for academics from the University of Leeds. I think that gave me about 350 existing Wikipedia articles which have the corresponding Wikidata item. So I was able to then add extra properties to things like the employer, the affiliation, to link them to the institution itself, and also to the school or faculty where they're based at the institution. And I was trying to expand to a minimum of having the gender, given name and surname, occupation, and if they were still a current employee, to have a link to the departmental webpage. And in addition to that, I've been trying to add the external identifiers to each item, particularly ORCIDs, because it's very reliable, because it's curated by the author themselves, but also Scopus IDs, Google Scholar, and there's a whole list of these which I haven't put on the slide, of external identifiers where we can link to sources of information about their publications. Potentially we can then pull that into Wikidata as well to get all those works into Wikidata. And in terms of sources that I've been using, after doing some work with Wikipedia, I've been experimenting with different sources. I found ORCID to be the best one to use in terms of the quality and the coverage, and also the fact it integrates very well with the tools that we have. The SourceMD package of tools includes Wikidata, so we can put in a Wikidata item where the ORCID ID is linked, and then pull in all the publications that are given in their ORCID profile. That's been a very, very quick and easy way to get a lot of data into Wikidata from ORCID. I've also done some work with the Scopus API, but I'm not happy with the quality of the data in Scopus. There's all sorts of problems around duplication of unique identifiers, which makes work difficult, and it's also it's not an open source. You need a subscription, and in many cases you need to be on campus to even access the API. So ORCID is one that I'm tending to use now. This is showing the two tools that I've been using primarily. One is SourceMD, which I've just mentioned. That allows us to add. Data from, for example, DOIs, or a list of DOIs, a list of QIDs. We can add the external identifiers that are in ORCID. We can add the publications that are in ORCID just by inputting a list of QIDs or DOIs. And the other tool that I use is OpenRefine, and this allows us to expand on the data that we've got from ORCID and then start getting things like the employer, where they were educated, all from the open profile. I'm actually going to be running a tutorial session tomorrow that will cover both of these two tools. If anyone is interested in learning more about it, I would suggest that they come along. And this is a map of the University of Leeds campus. It's created from a Sparkle query in Wikidata, and it's attaching the authors to the school which they're affiliated. And it's also indicating the number of papers that are published by that school that are in Wikidata. What I want to do with this eventually is, instead of having a list of authors, to start getting a list of subjects that were published by each school. That's something in the future, which I'm going to try and achieve by using named entity recognition on the articles that we've got in Wikidata. I've started experimenting by doing that on the title. I don't think that's going to be sufficient, and I'm probably going to have to get the abstract and then run the named entity recognition to extract subjects. I want to try and create an author item for every author named on a paper, and not just have one or two that are affiliated to the University of Leeds and then a series of strings. I want to be able to get everyone as an item with their affiliation, so we can start looking at the analytics there. Things like document my workflow, that would be great. Hopefully that will happen one day soon. And I'd really like to turn this into a use case that we can show how universities can use the bibliometric capabilities that we've got in Wikidata. So I think I'll leave that there for now.
Thank you. Questions? And also, I don't know where the microphones are, but I hope we can run them again.
I have a question. How you pull the metadata out of the record, especially unless all your authors has affiliation. Otherwise, how do you know your university's faculty?
Okay, so obviously because I'm working in scholarly communications at the University of Leeds, I do have quite a good sense of, particularly the authors who are quite prolific in terms of the publishing output. I can sort of pick them out just from my knowledge that I've gained as part of my job. But a lot of ORCIDs do have that information in the public profile. It's not all, and I haven't got a figure of the percentage. But where that's available, I can just pull that in from the API.
So going forward, do you plan to keep maintaining and adding to this, and will you be doing it in Wikidata or in your own database and pushing to Wikidata?
It's all going to be in Wikidata. It's not. This isn't something I'm doing as part of my job, so it's purely a Wikidata project to really experiment and see how we can approach this work.
So I just wonder if we seen you makes use documentation of the workflow. Why not just looking at the previous talks now and wonder why not doing this together? Maybe because things are constantly again and again people are doing the same things.
Yeah.
Sorry, this is not working.
It is, yeah.
Okay, like this. Okay. So I would just suggest maybe in the final day to start kind of a wiki with things that are in some projects again and again evolving, that the people are not reinventing the wheel, and we have will not spend so much time figuring out.
Yeah, I completely agree with what you're saying. I have to be honest, I wasn't aware that other people were doing work around this area until today. So it's great to learn that other people are interested, and I'd very much like to have conversations over the next few days about how we can collaborate.
That sounds like a good Thursday hack day project. Actually, consolidating that knowledge.
Do we have time for one more? Or we're done? No, we're done? Sorry.
But you can put the question in the Etherpad and I can collect the answer.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, next one is Miriam Redi.
Hello. Hi. Good afternoon. My name is Miriam. I'm a research scientist at the Wikimedia Foundation. Today I'm going to tell you about some of the recent experiments that we did in research about understanding citation in Wikipedia. I don't see my slides, so I'm going to have to turn a lot. I can just turn to see what I need.
Just talk to the screen.
Yes. Okay, now I can see my slides. So this is research in collaboration with a bunch of amazing researchers from institutions from all around the world, and many people at the Wikimedia Foundation. Some of them are here. So collectively, we work in this program called Knowledge Integrity. There is an amazing meta page about it. I'm not going to talk about the program itself. I'm going to tell you what it means for us doing research in the context of knowledge integrity. For us, it means designing tools and machine learning algorithms to understand and improve the citation space in Wikipedia. We want to tackle this problem both from an editor perspective, so helping editors finding sentences that mean citations and helping them bridging these gaps. And also from a reader perspective, so understanding whether actually readers care about citations in Wikipedia. So the first question that we answer towards solving our problems and towards our goals is actually a very simple question. What do we cite in Wikipedia? What does it mean citing in Wikipedia? And so Dario talked about this dataset this morning, so we released this dataset about all publications with identifiers cited in Wikipedia in all 300 languages. And I'm sorry, this microphone is very tall for me. Oh yeah, okay, cool, sorry, that was simple. That's much better. Okay. Basically, every line of this data set has a publication ID, the publication type, and the Wikipedia article and revision that cite each publication. We did a bunch of analysis on this data set. They're available at these links. I think probably one of the most interesting findings is that the most cited publication in English Wikipedia is the Encyclopedia of AFL Footballers. So I don't know, you can do anything that you want with this information. As Dario said this morning, most of the DOI, PubMed, and PubMed Central publications are now imported in Wikidata thanks to the effort of the Wikicite crew at the recent hackathons. We also recently extended this dataset to characterize each citation with the topic of the citation and an accessibility value. It means whether the citation is open access or not by crossing the data with the unpaywall dataset that characterize each DOI with an open access link if it's available. And so by crossing this data set, we did some analysis and we found that actually if you read articles about space or biology in Wikipedia and you click on citation, you're very likely going to to be able to freely read the citations in this article. While if you read articles about, say, economics or mathematics, you're gonna very likely hit a paywall if you want to read and click more, understand more about the citations in these articles. Thanks again to the recent effort in a Wikicite workshop at the TechStorm in the Netherlands. All the archive IDs corresponding to the EOIs in Wikidata are now imported in Wikidata. So we have also these open access links in Wikidata, which is very nice. So we talked so far about citations from an editor perspective, but what about the other side of Wikipedia? Do readers care about citations? And to answer this question, we actually did an experiment where we instrumented English Wikipedia for 1 week to record readers' interaction with citations. So these are very preliminary results because this is just 1 week of data, but what we found is that only 1 out of 100 users tend to click on a citation when reading a Wikipedia page. I don't know whether this is a high or low percentage. What I can tell you is that for some articles, like mathematics, engineering, or technology articles, this percentage goes up to 30%. So click-through rate on citations becomes higher for more geeky topics, which makes sense. And okay, so another work that we did is in the context of automatic detection of statements in a citation. Basically, editors in Wikipedia, obviously, they are very responsible for ensuring that the verifiability policy is somehow respected in Wikipedia. That the Wikipedia complies with the verifiability policy. How they do it? Well, we all know they either add citations to the statements in Wikipedia or they add a citation needed tag when a sentence misses a citation. This citation needed tag, I believe, is very, very powerful because it's a message to readers telling them, hey, please don't trust 100% this sentence when you read it. And it's very important if we think as Wikipedia as one of the main sources of information that people look at to absorb knowledge. Adding citation needed tags with the pace and the growth of Wikipedia, adding citation needed tags sometimes is not possible even for larger editorial communities in all areas and in real time. So we thought, can we help with machine learning? Can we help editors understanding areas of content that are missing citations? And can we design a machine learning algorithm that can automatically detect whether a sentence would need a citation or not, at least suggest it to editors, right? right? So this is exactly what we did. So we first did an experiment with editors to understand what needs to be cited in Wikipedia, and then we designed a machine learning algorithm that can detect whether sentences need citations or not, and also explain, give a reason why. 2 minutes, cool. So very briefly, what we did is that we did a experiment with editors, and we came up with a taxonomy of reasons why sentences need to be cited or not cited in Wikipedia, and then we applied it. We applied the knowledge that we acquired through to design a framework that can detect sentences that need citation. How we did it is basically we took from featured articles, so the most curated articles in Wikipedia, a group of positive samples, so samples, sentences with citations, a group of negative examples, so sentences that do not have citations, and then we design an algorithm that can learn how to distinguish between these two groups so that for new sentences, it can automatically classify whether it needs a citation or not. I'm going to skip the details, but basically this algorithm, by looking at both content and the position of the sentence in the article, can detect sentences needing citation with 90% of accuracy. And because of how we designed this algorithm, we can also understand where the algorithm is looking at when assigning citation needed score. It's essentially looking at verbs such as estimated or claim, and specific, say, scientific or historical words. We also extend this algorithm to be able to detect the reason why certain sentences need citations, and we do this by annotating a large collection of sentences with the reason why they need a citation, taking the reason from our citation reason taxonomy. We fine-tuned the algorithm for citation needed detection to detect also the reason why sentences need a citation. We can reach reasonable accuracy with this algorithm. It's only reasonable because we don't have enough data, but this is work in progress, and we are researchers, so we are going to work on that, and we're going to work on a number of other things that I just another minute. Basically, we are going to apply this citation needed model to understand Wikipedia citations at scale, and understand in different languages and in different articles where sentences miss citation. We are also trying eventually, so the final goal is to also leverage the Wikicite effort to basically suggest sentences to suggest citations to sentences missing them. And eventually we also want to try and categorize sources according to their quality and reliability, looking again at Wikipedia as one of the major sources of information for people around the world. And with that, I thank you very much, and I'm over time, I'm sorry.
Talking about sources, do you use preprint servers as one of the sources?
What preprint?
Preprint.
We use archive.
Okay, the preprint servers are before peer review. So
Before peer review. No, we don't have this. I think, right? We don't do this.
Yeah, I think we should have quality meter on every reference links, citations. You know, like that meter should tell whether a citation is just for a word, a phrase, or a whole sentence of the paragraph. And then the type of citation, and it should be actually auto-indexed, done by the process itself. When someone gives a citation from a journal or a magazine or a newspaper report, it should automatically index and put a kind of a quality index onto that. And then they should have an option for them to point out whether it is for a word or a, you know, for a whole paragraph or something. Maybe citations should have kind of a quality meter.
So there has been some work with one of our collaborators actually did exactly some work in that, understanding the span of a citation to exactly suggest whether the citation should span a single word, a sentence, or a paragraph. So I think this is still work in progress. So hopefully soon we will be able to integrate this work.
One quick question over here. You said in the beginning that less than 1% of visitors click on a citation link. Did you look at how much that is a function of how many sources there are actually on the page and how this is related?
Yeah, so this is something because basically we collected just 1 week of data, so we didn't go at that depth of analysis. Now we have collected data for a longer time, for 1 month. So we are going, this is one of the things we want to do, analyze the click-through rate on citation as a function of number of citations in the page, but also the position of the citation in the page, because it's very likely that this also plays an important role. So yeah, definitely, thanks.
Okay, going once. Next one, please. Next.
Thank you very
talk will be- Next talk will be on Untitled Chapter by Rosie Stephenson-Goodknight. I would just go to the program and then go from there. There's a typo. Anyone see the typo in this internet? I would just Google for Wikicite and then go from there.
So hi everybody, my name is Rosie Stephenson-Goodknight, and I'm here today to talk about Wikicite and gender diversity visibility. I'm a member of several organizations, including Wikimedia District of Columbia, Wiki Women in Red, the Affiliates Committee, and the Movement Strategy Community Health Working Group. Mostly, you'll know me as a veteran content gender gap article creator on English Wikipedia who incorporates Wikidata, Commons, and Wikisource in my work. I'm not a librarian, I'm not a researcher, but I am an early adopter of the notion that Wikidata is at the center of the Wiki universe. The Gender Diversity Visibility Community User Group is a new affiliate established in 2018. Think of it as the sum of all gender diversity articles in all languages. Originally, it was intended to be an affiliate outgrowth of Women in Red, whose focus is on women's biographies, women's works, and women's issues broadly construed. But it became much more inclusive of gender in general, not just women in particular. We work on issues related to knowledge equity, global representation, diversity, and inclusion. Thanks to the work of Max Klein and others, we use the Wikidata Human Gender Indicators tool to measure our progress in article creation. Wiki, as it used to be referred to, is a project producing an open data set about the gender, date of birth, place of birth, ethnicity, occupation, and language of biography articles on all Wikipedias. The data set is generated by Wikidata. What you see here is a depiction of the percentage of women's biographies by language Wikipedia as of November 21st, just a few days ago. Since Women in Red was founded in July 2015, our editors have created tens of thousands of new articles within our scope in dozens of different languages. Our number one challenge is locating and accessing reliable sources. In order to turn the challenge into an opportunity, the Gender Diversity Visibility User Group came up with a bold idea. We want to establish an electronic lending library for our members so that no matter where you live, you can have access to a source that we have in our e-library. We're in conversations with Ben Birschbaum, with Jake Orlowitz, and the folks from the Wikipedia library. We all agree that communities should have the ability to develop a curated set of references which suits its scope. Like Wikidata, we are, and to quote Asaf, massively multilingual. So we will need an e-lending library which can support that. We recognize that we're in the infancy in developing this project. We are ready to collaborate with others who are like-minded. We are appreciative of any suggestions you might have to help us along in the next few days while we're here or after. While finding sources is a challenge, it's a shame to not be able to access what you have found. Women in Red has a librarian in residence, Susan Barnum, who helps people gain access to some sources. We are a virtual community. Many of us are polyglots. We do a lot of translation work. Using Sparkle queries, we have developed over 400 Wikidata lists. We call them red lists of missing women's biographies, or red links. But mostly, our members don't have a strong inclination to do anything else with Wikidata. A database of open citations and linked bibliographic data would intuitively help us with article production, but our community isn't connected to the efforts to make this happen. By the way, shout out to Rob Fernandez, who was helpful in the development of this particular red list of women cartoonists. I love ORIS, and I know at least some of you do too. ORIS, or Objective Revision Evaluation Service, is an artificial intelligence editing tool. It generates automated scores for every single edit and article on some Wikimedia projects, such as English Wikipedia. I asked my ORIS Sherpa, Aaron Halfacre, how does ORIS treat citations as part of its algorithm? He tells me that one of the recent advancements with ORIS is measuring citations at the paragraph level. But now, having heard Miriam speak, I know who I want to speak with next. In addition to representing the various communities already mentioned, I'm the Wikipedia visiting scholar at Northeastern University in the Women Writers Project. I focus on pre-20th century English language women writers broadly construed, as well as their works. In this regard, I'm interested in the development of a curated bibliographic corpus in Wikidata for this project. Specifically, my team at Northeastern University and I are interested in a data model in Wikidata that represents the works of pre-20th century women writers. You know, their books, their essays, their poems, the newspapers they founded, as well as critical reviews of these works. I'm looking forward to learning from you how to make that happen. Thank you very much.
Ideas?
Hi, Rosie. Very inspiring talk as usual. I'm wondering, as we start thinking about what we can do with machine learning to support these efforts, one idea just realize might be relevant here is to start thinking about the gender coverage in external sources, right? So right now, one possible approach is to say, okay, we're going to try and find corpora that are specifically designed to have high coverage of women in whatever field. We still don't know what the source is, how the sources are covering these women, whether there's an additional bias. I'm just wondering if there's something that we could do to basically also assess the gender bias, gender slant in sources that being potentially considered as candidate sources before they get used.
So I think it's a good question, Dario, and I think we're going to have to rely on automated methods to come up with that answer. I don't know any other easy way. I don't even know where to start with that. So maybe there's someone in this room who has some idea about that, and I think we'd all be open to it.
Well, if you don't have any further questions, then I don't actually want to move on to the next talk, but I want you to actually spend a minute of silence to think about what we can do to close that. And you don't have to report, you're welcome to write your thoughts down into the Etherpad, but we have that additional minute, and we have many people here, so let's just try to think about it and then see what comes out of it.
New best friend.
I'll start in a minute, and then we will do it. This is not the morning kind of minute of silence, but the thinking active, because we're moving towards a hack day where we don't want to hack on silence, but we want to hack on something more concrete. Okay, so I have an indicator of a timer here. It says 9:37. Okay, 1 minute silence. Okay, thank you, and keep typing. So we're moving to the next and final talk for this session and actually for the day. And now I have to find the right thing. So here we go. This will be Kenneth Seals-Nutt about the science story.
Yeah.
Well, this is we were distinguishing between talks and microphones, so this will be the last talk. And we're
Yeah.
That's not the fault, that's the
Sorry about the delay, guys. And thank you again for that minute too. I think this is very important mission, and it ties in very nicely with our talk as well. My name is Kenneth Seals-Nutt, and I'm a researcher out of Yale University. And this project is actually completely volunteer driven outside of Yale. But Yale allowed me to meet my research collaborator, Kat Thornton, who has been working for many years writing articles and curating content around women in science. And our partnership actually came from another Wikidata tool that we use, that we've been workshopping. And she's actually presenting it today in a conference in Germany, so she couldn't be here to present. But what our tool does is a way to use Wikidata to have a visual storytelling of academic research. We really want to leverage the crowdsourcing components of the Wikimedia tools in maximizing both the ease of use of going to a Wikipedia article and reading all of the free-form content there, as well as the quick structured data that's used in Wikidata, as well as enriching our application with sources that are actually producing rich visual tools such as pictures and videos by going directly to research institutions and asking them to share their collections with us in the time between now and when things are getting ported over to Wikimedia Commons. So we're using the IIIF International Image Interoperability Framework to connect these institutions and show off the really great work that they're doing. Ultimately, we want to raise the profile of underrepresented communities. We started with, given our collegiate connection, we started with key women of science that are involved in scientific research at Yale University before they had undergraduate co-education in 1969. So this allowed us to have a really interesting data set of people who have a pretty good amount of information about them on the web, such as Maxine Singer, people that have a very good amount of information with a lot of misattributions not given to them, such as Grace Hopper, and Catherine Jeanette Bush, who was the very first female PhD student at Yale University and has almost no presence, but her works are very highly publicized about. As well as, just like as a quick personal anecdote, for me, when I saw the movie Hidden Figures, for those of you all who don't know, is almost like a documentary of some of the early, what they described as human computers, of the early mathematicians and programmers at the NASA Space Center. And I found it really inspiring as her story, but it was kind of funny. I saw the movie with my great-grandmother, and she somehow actually went to school with Katherine Johnson, and her daughter is actually one of the first programmers at Southwestern Bell, which is AT&T now. So that connection is what kind of really let me gravitate to how can we tell these stories like Hidden Figures for other people in a way that maybe isn't getting funded to have a full feature-length film, but with very quick access to crowdsourced information. So we're using, for the sake of time, I'll kind of rush through these slides so I can do a demo. IIIF allows us to do, is a standardized set of APIs that allows us to connect images from other sources in a very controlled fashion, and there's viewers on top of them, and I can demonstrate exactly some of the benefits we can use there. This is just an example of how we can curate content from structured places, from crowdsourced places, as well as here's a picture from Yale's archive that we took, and they allowed us to have it for this project. And while it's not currently in Commons, we can still pair those two things together in the same location as their books and their scholarly work, as well as YouTube videos for people who are a little bit younger or want to do very effortless research. So this is just a quick slide about our web stack. It's predominantly JavaScript based. Because I'm the only developer, I really needed something that I could work on a lot of moving parts using some redundancy in the code. So here I will. All right. So here's the site. I'm actually going to log in. And we'll walk through a example of Grace Hopper's science story in our application today. All of the data is live, so please bear in mind that with the demo gods. So the way we categorize or curate these science stories is through a collection of slides. We find that to be the most easy to share method for someone to communicate information about someone. It can be a great presentation tool, as you can see, since I'm giving a presentation, as well as a way to just categorize specific points or works in someone's life. So this is an example of how we're actually leveraging Wikidata as well as IIIF. This is an example of one of the viewers called Mirador that allows us to show the image in a pre-configured format that gives us the capabilities of annotating what's actually in the image. Right now, IIIF is not linked data, and this is where we wanted to bridge that gap by making our annotations very simple. A user just needs to find their QID from their Wikidata item, and our engine does the rest of the work. We're able to curate on the fly who this person is, as well as what it is, getting quick facts from Wikidata, and using the Wikimedia API to get a quick summary of their Wikipedia article. We found this to be really compelling, not only on images, but also this will allow scholars to actually annotate works. So I can actually say who this person is when I'm going over and just seeing a list of names and attributions. As well as with drawings. This is an actual drawing that Grace Hopper wrote, created, tracking the history of the computer. This has been a really fun presentation for audiences like this, and for people who also want to communicate what it is they do. For someone who doesn't understand the history of the computer, they can highlight over these things and quickly get a sense of what it is you're looking at. And so this generates a bit of nostalgia for a lot of people, as well as a bit of discovery for others. So we really tried to make this a one-stop shop. So that's some of the user contributed side. We were able to have these image viewers as well as videos, but then we really wanted to leverage people who don't have a lot of content readily available for someone to tell their story. And so this is where I spent the summer actually writing some visualizations just using a Sparkle query from Wikidata, and then putting cool visualizations on top of them to communicate and bring the data itself to life. So right now there's 3 statements that says where Grace Hopper was educated at, and on the fly it gathers a picture from that college institution's image, any logos, it displays them in a slideshow, and as well as pulls in any qualifying information, such as what degrees they got and years they attended, and the school's official website. Timeline view of things and people and places that are relevant and key moments in someone's life. This can really be used to find things that link to this person. More specifically, for people who are impacted, this gives a cool chart. So for students of this person, or people who this person was a student of, they would show up here, as well as a map of important places that are relevant to the person's life. When I was giving this presentation for the Library of Congress, we zoomed in on DC, and actually the person I was presenting to, the Grace Hopper Park was in their backyard. So it was pretty cool to actually like bring this data to life, as well as with their articles, having just some sort of visualization to categorize their contributions there, and awards. So a lot of different types of visualizations. We really wanted to make this very interactive for both younger audiences as well as just people really wanting to sit back and understand someone's life. For more in-depth information that goes beyond the scope of our project, we really wanted to refer back to where we're getting this information from, so we embed the Wikidata website. 2 minutes? Okay. And as well as the Wikipedia article. And so, yeah, that's what it looks like to view a story inside of our application. And I will, 1 second, try to get back to the slides. So for future work, we're really wanting to partner with developers. Those visualizations really just scratch the surface, and a lot of people are making much better visualizations than I could by myself. So I really would love to reach out to other developers and find ways to integrate existing tools on our application, as well as archivists and researchers. We're also trying to make this an educational tool for designing curriculums that center around someone's life, and as well as move science stories to other domains that'll have rich visualizations of Wikidata applied to it. So thank you guys for listening to my talk.
Say you wanted to do
we
something.
have remote attendees and they can't hear you. So
fair enough. I'll wait. Okay. Say you wanted to do something like this on a smaller scale. Could you point us to some resources that would help us, especially those with lower technical skills than yourself?
Yeah, that's one of the huge projects that we're trying to work on, is making this portable. Having a view of our system that's not just for someone that's a developer, but someone that can really just efficiently create, and really trying to bridge that gap there. But yeah, that's still on our to-do list.
Yeah, thanks for that. Firstly, I think it's really cool, and I can see it being ported to other things, way beyond just science. It's got a lot of potential, I think. I wanted to just specifically mention about the IIIF element, and firstly say for those that don't know that Wikidata now has a property to allow you to attach IIIF manifests. It also has a property for relative position within the image, which allows you to put those tagged items like a person or something, just to say that on Wikidata. Have you also considered, when you're curating these stories, putting that data back into Wikidata?
Yes.
Like relative position?
Yeah, actually this was announced last week, or ever since that moment, we've been actually avidly trying to figure out a way to use this. It's really cool that this information is there, and we're actually, Kat Thornton's the one leading the effort to taking some of the crowdsourced data from our side and putting it back into all of the sources that we're pulling data from.
Thank you.
More questions?
There's one
I'm only asking this because no one else is asking questions, but I'm just thinking over the tension between, so I'm wondering, have you thought through prioritizing the people who you want to do stories on? Because you have this tension because you're like limited to the data that's available, but then the problem is that these people are under-described. So how are you thinking through that tension, especially in context of like Wikicite and things like that?
Yeah, this is actually a very important question. It's by far our biggest struggle and challenge when developing this. This is kind of where some of the visualizations came into mind because there's not enough pictures of the person to really make the story compelling. So we're trying to really be efficient on how we prioritize work to really maximize the people that don't have as much, because that's the main goal of the application. So yeah, that's really a huge effort on our part.
I think we should take it from the crowd. Maybe we should have a kind of a list generated by, by the list of people.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Oh yeah, the question was, or the suggestion was to have a list generated from the crowd of people that would be good candidates in our application.
Well, I feel like these last few talks all run together, right? Like Women in Red is trying to make lists, is making lists. You are making visualizations of data, but one challenge for all of our projects is how to show a gap, like how to show something that's missing. And I'd be really interested in your thoughts on visualizing these people and somehow in a compelling way showing what we don't know about them. Because so often we research women and they were never credited as authors on papers, or we don't have photos of them, or whatever. But there's gaps that are like those gaps are part of the record, and we need to not just pretend that it's something we can get. Like I think we need to figure out some creative way, collectively, like visualize gappy data as data.
I can comment on this. For Scholar, you can see some of those gaps related to gender, for instance, and we got both praise and criticism for that. Some people said, well, you shouldn't expose gender so openly, and others said we want more of it, and so we're sitting in the middle thinking about making this user customizable or something like this. Someone else raised their hand while I was taking the microphone? Was that you? No?
Well, it was a follow-up question about this.
We are running into break time, so
yeah,
this is the last comment. You can. No problem. Someone else, Mark, you had something? Well, I can allow one more comment. Someone just stand up and do it. We're here to really discuss and exchange.
One thing, my wife also works on biographies of scientists, and one thing she's noticed sometimes is that although sometimes women scientists, for instance, are in there, but often what's in the Wikipedia article about them doesn't actually say a lot about the science they do compared to men. Often it has to do with, who they were married to or other things about their personal life and stuff like that. And I'm wondering if there might be an interesting synergy between some of this work and some of the earlier work I was talking about analyzing texts to possibly identify articles that exist where more information about the person's actual scientific contributions could be added.
Yeah, I strongly second that. If there's any tools out there that would help with this, we would love to showcase that in this.
Your Scholar does highlight lots of those things. So just by looking at the Scholar profile, you get an idea of what the research is that they were doing or are doing in a way that many other sources just don't provide. So we have been linking systematically or creating Scholar profiles for Women in Red articles systematically, and so far no way to complain. So. Okay, now it's break time. Enjoy the other conversations. Thank you. Oh yeah, we will be back here at 4:30. And thanks to all the speakers, by the way.